without legislation will just lead to frustration. And it's important that we mobilize that energy to the polls to make sure that we have the right people in office that can make the right decisions and impact our communities. And it was actually in 2016 that we hosted a political boot camp. Anyone was there at the Wistar Institute on Penn's campus back in 2016? I know State Representative Harris and Councilman Kenyatta Johnson and so many others. We had so many folks who were just there, Senator Vincent Hughes, and so many were there just educating our community on Politics 101. And that was probably a series, we had a series of events that led up to that. And then I'll tell you, in that year is when, this is a nonpartisan event, but it was that year that Donald Trump was elected to be the president of the United States. And I'll tell you, it kind of knocked the wind out of me, if you will, when it came to just understanding the political environment and where we were at that time. And we shifted as an organization to focus on nonprofit boards to say this is where we can actually govern on the front lines of organizations that are making an impact in our community, where we can at least be, make sure that we leverage philanthropic dollars and public dollars to do good on the front lines of our communities. And we started DiverseForce a little later after that in 2017 and started DiverseForce on Boards program, where we've now trained over 12 cohorts, 330 alumni of the program, and they've actually filled over 300 board seats all throughout the region, which we're just really proud of that work. We continue that work. I thank Senator Hughes and so many others who've been tremendous supporters of that work as well. We have some alumni in the room. I'm going to recognize a few who are just doing some amazing things in the political space. Again, it's a nonpartisan event, but I want to recognize Malcolm Yates, who's actually one of our alumni, cohort 3, right, of the program, and he's now leading Kamala Harris's state political engagement for the, it's actually the state, right? Southeast region, so the whole Southeast region, he's over that, so he's the person to talk to. You want to do fundraisers, things of that sort, we're going to look to do stuff here as well. Also, he's also taken a sabbatical, if you will, just a bit from a PHMC, Philadelphia Health Management Corporation, leading their government relations, a major institution in the city. Also, I want to recognize the birthday boy, our Commissioner Omar Sabir. Where's Omar Sabir? Who held the line, okay, for the state to make sure there's no funny business when Pennsylvania came through for President Biden in 2020, when folks were trying to undermine the elections. He was a national figure still, and here today on his birthday, making sure that folks get out to vote, which is his job as commissioner, to make sure that we have fair elections and that people are fully engaged in the democratic process. Please give him a birthday welcome and congratulations. He also is one of our alumni of our DiverseForce on Boards program, cohort 3 as well. So cohort 3 is pretty political. I love it. I love it. I love it. So just really excited to have so many elected officials here. And we're going to turn it over shortly to our moderators. I want to give a shout out. I want to also bring up our partners that are here from Every Voice, Every Vote, from the Lenfest Institute. In fact, I'm going to make a call now before I say anything else. The Lenfest Institute has made a major investment in community to make sure that folks are engaged from many different various communities throughout the city. During the mayoral process, we hosted a couple events here, and there were hundreds, literally hundreds of events that were happening through the city as a result of Every Voice, Every Vote. So I'm going to ask Sean Moore to come up really quickly and share this initiative in the city.
Thanks so much for your time. And we're really excited because it was last year, or it was the first iteration of Every Voice, Every Vote, and Suleiman, again, was one of the first folks to host an event, and we had a very memorable town hall debate with Mayor Parker, and so that was something that went viral, and we're just really excited. And one of the things I was sharing on the radio earlier was that in this iteration, what we're most focused on is how do we make sure that folks are getting out and lifting up their voice to really unpack and understand their role in the political process. So yes, it's great that we elected our first, African-American woman mayor. We have our 100th mayor, but now as we continue to do this work, how are we as media and as community folks ensuring that everyone can kind of cut through the noise of mis and disinformation and really access what it is that we're hoping to get out of the policies that we lifted up and we, fought for to get elected, get someone in office to pay attention to these issues. What's going on with those issues? How are we holding our officials accountable, but then also how are we holding ourselves accountable in terms of playing an active role in the political process and making sure that your voice is heard and that you're also engaged in the process. And so we're just really excited for events like this to make sure that folks are coming out to be in the know and to understand how they can engage in the process. And so congratulations and thank you.
Awesome. So I'm excited to introduce our moderators for today. I know we marketed this as me being one of the moderators, but I found someone that can replace me and do a much better job than I can. So I'm just going to sit down and take notes as well as we kind of go through this civic engagement boot camp, if you will, mini boot camp. And I was bringing up the event in 2016 because I actually had a friend who I went to Penn with, who got his PhD, and I asked for a favor to be our keynote speaker for that event in 2016. It was none other than Dr. James Peterson, who did a phenomenal job in bringing everything together, talking about pop culture and so many things. He was a professor on pop culture and civic, just so many, his background is a long list, just a powerful background of just being a public intellectual, sharing powerful information, now at Word from 4 to 6, I believe, 5 to 7.
4 to 7.
4 to 7, let me get it right. 4 to 7. And I'll before I mess anything else up, I want to make sure that I give him an opportunity to also introduce himself as well. But also, this is a gentleman I met just a short period of time ago, was introduced to Representative Napoleon Nelson, who's actually the chair of the PA Legislative Black Caucus. Please give him a round of applause. Sometimes when you work with folks who are busy, who are elected officials, many times it's hard to get in contact. You're sometimes concerned about doing a partnership like this because our reputation's on the line many times when we do events like this. But I can't say enough about Napoleon just picking the phone up, doing what he said he's going to do, which is a good sign of a good leader. So please give him a round of applause and getting folks. I was for one of the first times able to just say, I don't have to worry about the panel. I'll let Napoleon take the lead, and he's booked some amazing elected officials that'll be here today, being a part of this conversation. He, as well as Dr. Peterson, will work kind of together to ask questions to really bring forward as much information that's necessary for you all to be more empowered. The reason why we call this unusual politics, because there's nothing usual about the politics that are happening today. Would you all agree? Yeah. And when we first thought about doing this event, it was actually before the Democratic Party nominated Kamala Harris as their representative, as their presidential candidate. And it was just, I felt similar to that I did in 2016, where it was kind of just feeling powerless to say, man, where is this going? How can we have more control over our future and our destiny? And the reality is, local politics is very important. And understanding that when we were concerned about the engagement that was going to happen, I felt it was going to be a record low engagement from our community, because many times we don't have anything to be excited about or hope. Many times we don't have that engagement, but there is stuff happening down ballot that not only during this election in November, but every election, every year, 2 times a year, we have to think about who's on the ballot and who do we need to vote for to be engaged all the time, not just during these big elections, because the reality is politics is local, and they're going to talk about that intergovernmental relationship between city, state, federal politics, and how that affects us every day right here in Philadelphia. So that is the purpose of this conversation. So with that, I'm going to get out the way and turn it over to Napoleon Nelson to lead us for the rest of the day.
Thank you all, and I appreciate the opportunity opportunity to be here. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you to all of those who are listening on the radio. Dr. Patterson, thank you so much for being a part of this thing, and we're gonna see how this goes. So give us a little, I'll call it a little grace. Make sure that you guys are as engaged as possible. We're gonna make sure that we have both a good and productive conversation as we can get. We're gonna try and get some real questions in to help demystify and provide real and resourceful information for you all. And it will not lose sight of the fact that we are at this point 84 days away from an historic election, one way or another, right? It's going to be an historic election one way or another. We got 84 days to do it. This is not a political conversation. This is not a campaign-related anything. This is good government showing up. But when good government shows up in the right way in our communities, all of a sudden, votes kind of tend to go where they're supposed to go. So we're going to make sure that we talk about and unpack that a little bit. Dr. Patterson, you want some opening remarks?
Yeah, Peterson. A couple of things. One, I'm so glad we're all here. Shout out to everybody listening on WRD. We are live on 900 AM, 96.1 FM. And is it okay if we get it started? Can we jump in? So I think I would love for each of you, first of all, take a minute just to introduce yourselves, and for folks who are listening, please introduce yourself. But then, if you don't mind, can you talk to us a little bit about, from your perspective, what's at stake 84 days from now? So please take a minute to introduce yourselves, and just in a minute or so, from your perspective, from where you sit and from your office, what is at stake in this November 5th election?
Ladies first.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 198th District. Yay! My name is State Representative Derisha Parker of the 198th District, and I'm absolutely having a very black moment. This event, I'm doing my black job on a black radio-owned station in a black-owned, managed, and ran building with our black councilwoman downstairs. Also, with the funds for this building came from two black individuals, Senator Street and myself. That was my black moment. When we're talking about what's at stake, I know Chairman Harris is probably going to run. I will talk about women. I'll talk about women issues, women lives. Y'all know I talk about Tuesday. Y'all know what I go to say. Can I do it, Chairman Harris? Can I once? Just this one time, can I get out the way? Tuesday is Tampon Tuesday. It is. So women should know that we are on the ballot. We are on the ballot every 6 months, but I'm sharing with you and I'm saying it with passion. I try to say it with humor to talk about something that people may not be aware of the sound of paper towels, of the sound of socks, and the sound of newspapers that are extremely unsanitary. And when we're going to say what is at stake, then we're saying that if we don't do what we're supposed to do and make sure individuals that look like us are on the ticket, then we're going to have a different conversation. So I will tell you that women, our lives, our children, our livelihood, our sanity is at stake this election and beyond.
Let's just go down the line. Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you're looking up here on this panel like you see three familiar faces here in Philly. You're wondering who this guy in the middle is.
Originally from Philly.
That's what I was going to. I was going to start off with that so I don't get booed. I am actually originally from Philadelphia, so I'm born and raised in Winfield, right by St. Joe's University, right off City Avenue. Don't try to play me. I know. But for those who do not know me, my name is Ariana Andrew Abney. I am state representative. I represent all of my neighbors in the 19th State House Legislative District, which is in Pittsburgh, Allegheny County. So I traveled all the way west, 300 miles to be here with you all. Do you have that winning lottery ticket? Do you have that winning lottery ticket from Pittsburgh? It's not me. It's not me. Trust me, you wouldn't know if it was me. You wouldn't know if it was me. But it is an honor and a privilege to be here with my colleagues to have this important conversation. I think for me, and I'm sure folks up here will talk about the specific issues in detail, so I'll let them handle that. I think for me, in a big picture sense, what is on the ballot is access to opportunities for folks in our communities. And what that looks like is as state government, it's really important for us to have a good working relationship with our federal government. And the administration matters. Who is in leadership? Who has secretaries of different departments at the federal level? How funding gets pushed down from the federal government to the state government really matters. And the administration is going to be very important in terms of how state government can interact with our federal government in terms of money getting pushed down in a reasonable amount of time. Or if there are folks in certain administration that are anti-public schools, right? What does that mean for our local public schools in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia? And so for me, it's really important that we have government from the local, state, and federal level that's on the same page. And it's hard to do that when you have a federal government that isn't really interested in the things that we're interested in here in Pennsylvania. That was my non-political answer. That's the best I can do.
So good evening. I am Pennsylvania State Representative Jordan Harris,
AKA Moneybag.
So I represent my neighbors in South and Southwest Philadelphia, in the 186th Legislative District. Point Breeze, Grades Ferry, Graduate Hospital, King Sessi are parts of my district. I represent my colleagues as the Majority Appropriations Chairman in the House of Representatives. And what's on the ballot? So I would have to say your voice is on the ballot in this sense. And I try to explain this to people. There will be a president, whether you vote or not. There will be members of Congress, the House and the Senate, whether you vote or not. There's going to be a governor. There's going to be members of the Pennsylvania General Assembly, whether you vote or not. Right? The question that the election day answers is, will you have a say in who those people will be? We're going to have those folks, right? The question is, will you have a say in who they are? And why does that matter? Because when you have a say, you get to decide the values of that person that represents you, right? Let me drive this home. I'm sorry. Yes. Because if you don't go to the polls to elect the person who shares your values, you have removed yourself and your voice from the conversation. And I'm going to drive it home even more serious. In the House of Representatives right now, where I serve, there is a one-seat majority, okay? That means that 2 years ago, at the ballot box, people went and they cast their votes for the 203 members of the House of Representatives all over Pennsylvania, and that there were more Democrats elected to the House of Representatives than there were Republicans. Because there were more Democrats elected than Republicans, Democrats control the House of Representatives in Pennsylvania. Now here's why that matters, okay? That one-seat majority that we have wasn't decided by 10,000 people. It was decided by a few hundred people in one seat in a county right outside of Philadelphia, okay? But that one-seat majority means that all of the chairmen of all of the committees in the House are Democrats. That means that the Speaker of the House is a Democrat. That means the person that controls the agenda for the House is a Democrat, okay? Just those few hundred people in that one district, in that one seat, gave us control. That means instead of being the minority chair of appropriations, no shade, I love you. I want you to get those seats.
That's my senator over there.
But that means that instead of being the minority chair, I'm the majority chair. So when you look on the budget, I want you to look close to the budget. Look at last year's budget. The governor runs around, last year's budget is great. My name on the budget. That's my budget. That originates in my chamber. this year's budget. It's a Senate bill, but it was amended with my amendment that put $1.1 billion into public education. I want you to understand why this matters. And it wasn't just me. We worked with Vince, my leader, Matt Bradford, my speaker, Jordan Clinton, but the mechanics of how this thing happens, it happens and tilts our way and our interest when we show up and use our voice, which is our vote. That's how it happens. All right? So, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Senator Hughes?
And there you have it, all right? And there you have it. All right, so State Senator Vincent Hughes, 7th Senatorial District, for purposes of geography, all of West Philadelphia, north of Market Street, from the river to the county line, Strawberry Mansion, Allegheny West, East Falls, Manayunk, Roxborough, Conshohocken, and White Marsh Township. Democratic Chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee. Not the majority, that's getting ready to change November 5th. I'm here, Doc, I said this on the radio, came in like gangbusters from the radio.
Yes, you did.
All right, and blame it on the Jamaican coffee, all right? If you're from Jamaica, it's Mountain Peak, you know what I'm talking about, all right? Y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Right? Okay. I'm here to tell you and to remind you and remind black people, brown people, women, young people, how much power you really have. You have all of the power. You don't think you have the power? People are spending billions of dollars trying to change all kinds of laws to stop you, us, from voting, from participating. If people are spending that kind of money, that must mean that what we got to offer is significant. Yeah. It's significant. Couple cases in point of example. Anybody remember Jeff Sessions? Yeah. Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General for the Orange Man. Okay? Just the purpose of clarification, all right? You gave me the mic, so I'm gonna use it, all right? The Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, you all may want to move aside here, okay? Jeff Sessions was a United States Senator before that, for the great state of Alabama. Jeff Sessions was only elected to the United States Senate, not just because our Caucasian friends made a bad decision, but because black folks did not vote in that election, in those elections in Alabama. Those who chose not to vote at all were the majority. What was the difference in his victory? You think about that. You think about that. It is the power that we have. We are actually talking about right now. You don't realize the power you got. You don't understand it. You don't appreciate it. You're not flexing like you need to flex. But let's be real clear. July 21st, 1:46 in the afternoon, Joe Biden sent out a tweet, or an X, whatever they call it, saying, I'm out. 15 minutes later, I'm down with Congress. That's what he said. At 7 o'clock, Sunday night, 45,000 black women were on the phone. No. Don't go for the applause line, because it ain't about that. You got to understand what was happening before that. Okay? The line jumping was about to occur before that. People were preparing themselves to say, well, what about Joe over here and Lou over there? Maybe they should be the option. Maybe, somebody over here, maybe they should be the option, when clearly the sister as vice president was the option. But if you did not flex, we would not be in this conversation right now. We would not be talking about a black woman being, and all y'all, you know, she ain't black, all that bullshit.
You're still live on.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it.
Still live on. We're on 900 AM.
I didn't say it. Right.
WURD.
I said it, okay? But I didn't say it.
Give them the bill.
But the point of the matter is this: if we did not flex, if y'all did not flex, then of course the brothers had to step up the next night, because you know we ain't gonna be left out of the conversation, all right? And we stepped up the next night and we did our thing. But it was the simple, and in 3 weeks, and those of us on this panel, we have a responsibility, especially Chairman Harris and myself, of having to do fundraising. A lot of fundraising. A lot of fundraising, okay? In 3 weeks, the system raised over $300 million. All right? In 3 weeks, she changed the dynamic, okay? From a candidacy that was going in the wrong direction or was stuck in neutral, okay, to a propelling that will elect, if we do our job, black women's president of the United States of America, okay, history. All right, so I'm here to send this message. We can talk about the details. We can talk about the budget funding. We can talk about the fact that without our presence in the small room in the negotiation, okay, that money would not be there. Not for schools. We can talk about the fact that in 4 years we put $276 million into neighborhood-based anti-violence programs, okay, which is the reason why the gun violence is going down, okay. All right, I know it feels hurtful anytime that there's an issue, but that is the reason why it is going down, all right, because a new program was put in place that was funded because the two of us are in the small room making sure these things happen, and on and on and on. So there's a direct relationship with all of that, but the first thing is for us to understand how much power that we have and to make sure that we exercise it. Okay? To make sure that whatever it is that our ancestors have fought for this moment, they did not fight for this position and this opportunity for us to give it away. They didn't fight for that. They didn't fight for that. They fought for us to assert ourselves, because when we lift up our boats, all boats get lifted up.
That's right.
All boats get lifted up.
And thank you, Senator Hughes. We appreciate it. I have Representative Nelson. I have a million follow-up questions going to ask you. Representative Harris, can you talk a little bit about the appropriations process? I think this is really important from the perspective of being the minority versus being the majority, but also from the perspective of the interface between funding that comes from the feds, comes through the state, and then the funding that eventually gets to municipal government. The folks here, Senator Hughes, I believe everybody in this room is going to vote. I believe everybody in this room is going to vote, right? And what we need is, we got to give them the tools to inspire their neighbors and their family members and the people around them to vote. And some of that, as I can tell you from somebody who's just always on WRD, on 900 AM, 96.1 FM, talking to people, they want information. So Rep. Harris, can you talk a little bit about the appropriations process? And particularly, like, can we talk a little bit about what's the interface between state government, and I want everyone to respond to this once Representative Harris talks about appropriations, interface between state government and federal government when it comes to funding, and then between state government and municipal government.
Yes, so in February, typically, sometimes in March, depends on the year, right? The governor's going to give his budget address, right? And that kind of starts what we consider the budget season, right? But before we even get there, November, December, January, the governor's administration is actually starting to work on what the governor is going to present, right? February comes around, the governor does his budget address. Probably like a week or two after that, we begin to convene budget hearings, right? And that's usually 3 weeks where the Appropriations Committee meets in Harrisburg, and we have think they're hating on my microphone. We have different budget, we have different secretaries, heads of departments come before the committee and explain why they need what they need in their budget, right? That is our opportunity. Ariana's on my committee, right? So my committee members get to question all of these secretaries, the heads of all these departments, about why they need what they need and what they're going to spend the money on, okay? We finish up, and the Senate does the same process. We finish up budget hearings, and then we start actually sitting down and discussing, you know, what's the spend number, how much we're going to spend, what's important to us, what's important to, maybe it's me, what's important to us as Democrats, what's important to Republicans. And here's why the majority piece matters, because we as House Democrats talk to our Senate Democratic colleagues and we work together. But when a part of the negotiation is going on, it's going on with the Senate Republicans because they're in the majority in the Senate, and then the third party would be the governor. So does everybody get it? I want to replay that. Governor, and then it would be whoever's in the majority in the House, whoever's in the majority in the Senate. Because it's all about votes at the end of the day. You got to get 102 votes in the House, 26 in the Senate, and the governor, right? That's how you make a budget. So because we are in the majority in the House, we're driving the ship. We're driving the ship for the House. Because Republicans are in charge in the Senate, they are driving the ship for the Senate as far as what our priorities are. Because we work with the Senate, and we incorporate what Senate Democrats want into our budget priorities. We call it carry, right? So Vincent will call me and say, these things are important, like student teacher stipends was important to Vincent. You started that last year. We started with $10 million. It was important to him. It's up to 20. But because we're in the majority, we have to carry that in our ask for the Senate. Now, if the Senate was in the majority, right, then we all are just chopping it up saying what you want, what you want, what you want, because we now got all of the votes to do it. Now, what my colleagues on the other side of the aisle do is they have their priorities. Many times their priorities aren't our priorities. And a lot of the times, they don't have priorities. I'm not joking, I'm so serious, I'm so serious. Their priorities is a lot of times us just not having. Case in point, when you look at the leadership in the Senate Republican caucus, when you look at what they say the wins are in the Senate, the first thing that they say is that they cut $700 some odd million out of the governor's proposal. Because to them, not investing money is a win. I want you to understand that. For them, not investing money is a win. So a lot of times, it's not that we're arguing over we want to spend it on this and they want to spend it on that. No, it's we want to invest it in children. We want to invest it in affordable housing. We want to invest it in seniors. We want to invest it in small businesses. They just like, we don't want to do nothing. None of that. Okay? So we go through that process, and sooner or later, come to June, hopefully by the end, this time it was July 11th, we come to an agreement where they feel as though they've cut us enough, and they've got the small things that they want, and we feel like we've invested enough and got what we want for our folks. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, because I want you to really understand because a lot of times it's like a myth of what's happening. You know, some people will be like, well, why are you telling the secret? No, but this is how the process happens, and this is what happens. And then my leader, who's a guy by the name of Matt Bradford, he's from Montgomery County with Napoleon, and myself, You know, my executive director is here, she's at the table. You know, we are the repository for all of the information and all of the data. In my office are all of the budget analysts who literally crunch the numbers for the budget. Vincent has budget analysts in his office. They crunch numbers as well. We get together and we try to make sure our numbers are the same and we agree. And then what happens is my leader and myself, along with our speaker, we go back to our members and we make a presentation. This is what we got. This is the best we think we can get. And then our job is to get all of them on board, right? So I made a joke about Dorisha. She said she wanted to talk about tampons again. But the reason why that's a running joke in our caucus, because $3 million is in the budget to give away feminine hygiene supplies. That's because Dorisha wouldn't shut up about tampons. Okay? No, it's important. Sisters, it's important. I want no smoke. And Dorisha wouldn't stop talking about feminine hygiene products. That's how it happens. So when you have a legislator, Ariane's talked about the neighborhood improvement, the NAP program, right? We increased money for the neighborhood improvement program because that was a priority for him. He's one of our members. So when we got to go back, me, the speaker, the leader, we got to go back, the whole leadership team, and sell the budget. We got to tell them that thing that you cared about is in there. That thing that you cared about, we got that. Some people, we got to tell them we couldn't get that in there, but we got this in here. So we're literally trying to put a puzzle together where our 102 members will put up their votes, where members in the Senate will put up their votes, and where a governor will sign the bill. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. $47.6 billion was the budget this year. $47.6 billion. That's the type of money we talk about. Y'all money.
No, I love, thank you for the detail, because I don't know if anybody else wanted to weigh in that. Representative.
Did I do it right?
No, he
Jordan got it.
Vince been here for 40 years, so I want y'all.
Yeah, that's true. I've been here for 40 years.
Did I get it right, Vince?
1987. I don't look like it. That's the point, all right? That's Shirley Ralph, all right? There we go. All right? Yeah, I got my dream girl shit. All right? So, I didn't say the whole word, okay?
Send him the bill.
But pointed out, there are, your question, Doc, was towards the relationship between federal, state, and local.
Yes.
Okay? And what people have failed to realize is the amount of power that exists at the state level. It is the states that fund public education. Not the federal government. Okay, not the federal government. State and local funds public education. We don't print money in Harrisburg like they do in Washington, because they can, and we're glad they can, okay? But we're carrying a $14 billion budget surplus in Pennsylvania, and it is larger than it has ever been exponentially, okay? And so so maximizing positions of representation in these different offices is relevant. It is the ingenuity of incredible staff that works to manage processes that drives resources out to communities. We just had a ribbon cutting out in West Philadelphia today, groundbreaking for a 55-unit affordable housing complex. All right, we are doing a ribbon cutting right down the street at the old Cassidy School. All right, that black man, Perryman Construction, is the lead construction operator there. Those are federal dollars. Now the feds can't be separated out of this conversation. They get most attention, all right? They it can't be separated out of this conversation because the Supreme Court, that federal proximity, and everything that goes along with that, all right? Federal judges, who is, you know, and case in point, more black women appointed to the federal bench in the last 4 years. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Kamala. All right? Than all appointees before, and more. I don't know if there's any attorneys in the room. The history had been in federal appointments, judicial appointments, that they come from the prosecution side. And you know, sometimes that don't work in our favor. Okay? All right? But this most recent president searched out and required of all of the U.S. senators the importance of Robert Casey, okay, in our case, all right? All the U.S. senators bring him and Kamala, the vice president, more folks from the public defender side of the conversation, okay? Where we get a more balanced perspective of how the law is supposed to be carried out. So in many respects, it is the state that has, you think about the mayor, in the counties, you think about the county commissioner, okay? And we think about who's the council person. We think about who the congressperson is, okay? We think about who the U.S. senator is. We certainly are thinking about who the president and the vice president of the United States are. We think about who the Supreme Court justices are. But, you know, when it's a judicial appointment, when there's a judicial vacancy at the state level, that's appointed by the state senate. That's right. Okay? Think about it, all right? The number of folks who are incarcerated in any state is doing state time. Not Fed time, not local time. It's doing state time. So the message is for those who are in this room, those who are listening, both locally and nationally, pay attention to your legislator. They have extreme importance. We redraw the district lines. We draw the lines. We have fair districts now, so consequently, we have an opportunity to have a Jordan Harris, okay, as the majority chairman, all right? And consequently, hopefully, prayerfully, we do our work, and Vincent Hughes is the majority chairman of the Appropriations Committee on the Senate side, because we have fair districts now. For 20 and 30 years, those were not the case, but it is that those district lines are drawn, not just for the legislature, they're drawn for the United States Congress, okay? And the laws are interpreted by the state Supreme Court, all right? So it's all connected. It's all very much connected, and I can tell you, Mayor Parker is very happy she has the majority chairman of the Appropriations Committee in position. As a friend, someone she can call on, and as either a 215 or 267 area code. All right?
Don't you about to put my number out?
But understand this. When there's a second piece added to the equation, all right, that we have a majority chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee to match what Jordan is doing, Mayor Parker will be very happy. The last thing is this. This room, this radio station we're broadcasting on, I won't go into the whole history, but I'm fortunate enough to know a whole lot of it, all right? It's a result of black politics. Okay? It's a result of black politics, and black folks, when given the opportunity, made some very hard decisions to put us in a position that eventually played out to this conversation in this room, broadcast on this radio station. For those who want to hear the whole history, that's a separate conversation.
Thank you, Senator Hughes. I don't know, Representative Nelson, want to get it, but Representative Parker, did you want to hop in on this issue?
I think the gentleman covered it, but one of the things when we're talking about locally, and sometimes when people heard Chairman Harris say 3 million, the text messages I get was, oh my God, I'm so happy Philadelphia's getting $3 million. And then I have to go back and say, that's state. So let's talk about what happens trickle down. Literally from what has happened on this stage when we're talking about what we did in our budget cycle. We now have a press release from Montgomery County who is installing free, period, products, dispensaries across all county-owned facilities in an effort to widen its assets. This is also happening in Shippensburg. It is also about to happen in Villanova. So why do I say what happens on the federal side? We've already had conversations with Senator Casey's office, with Senator Fetterman's office, with Congressman Evans' office, with Congressman Boyle, because the other bill that is in Senator Appropriations for House Bill 850 is in the appropriation side that's going to come back over to the House. I need my federal partners because it's involving SNAP and WIC, so I'm going to need the grants for them. So we don't have to figure it out because our federal partner is on board. Why is Mayor Parker and her administration happy? Because when we pass that $3 million, those grants will be for our schools in Philadelphia. We're all going to figure it out. So we're all in a family together, working this out, and I'm just excited that historically, her story is being told this year and this cycle because of all of you, so thank you.
So we talked an awful lot about, and Senator, you even brought up the eventually portion. And I want everyone to appreciate that we're talking about this now because this is part of how we mobilize and experience Black power and really our political power throughout Pennsylvania and this nation. And so I mentioned 84 days until the next national election. For those of you, there are a couple folks in Philadelphia who are about to have a special election on September 17th to replace Representative Don Bullock or Representative Steve Kinsey. Please do make sure that you all show up for that. But for the rest of us, how do we really understand and to some degree hold ourselves both accountable, but celebrate how far we have come so far, right? So we're here in Germantown. I've got folks in Cheltenham, Rep. Abney from historic Hill District out in Pittsburgh. There are folks who have lived and moved into our communities looking for opportunity. And sometimes we got an awful lot of folks we can all understand who say, I don't see it yet. And how do we sell them on why we're getting there? How do we sell them on the importance and the power of their vote, even now when they don't feel like they see it yet, but the Hill District's moving, and when we're moving here in Germantown, we're moving in Cheltenham, we're moving in West and Southwest, and we're moving in Shippensburg, and there are Black folks who are moving right now in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre and Pittston and throughout this nation, in Erie, Pennsylvania, they're moving, but they don't see it yet. How do we explain the importance of voter mobilization and what they will see if we keep this up?
And I try to kick it off. This is the first time I've been on a panel with at least these two, and I feel like I'm on a panel with LeBron. So every time they take like a Gatorade break, I gotta get my shots in. So I would say the reality of the fact is, like when I think about, when you mentioned the historic Hill District, so this is a neighborhood where August Wilson is from. If you all know August Wilson, the playwright, right? So this is a community that is steeped in history and legacy. But it is also a community that during urban renewal in the 50s and 60s completely demolished the community and built a civic arena, built a stadium, a hockey stadium in the middle of a neighborhood, right? And we are 50, 60 something years, 70 years past that, we're still coming out of that, right? And so when you look around the communities, we didn't get here overnight in the situations that we're in, and we're not going to solve the problems overnight. It's going to take a multi-faceted sort of approach to get us to where we want to go. I know that's not the answer everybody wants, but the reality of the fact is, you know, if you are relying on government to solve all your problems in your communities, you're going to be waiting a long time. Government is set up and designed in a way where it doesn't always, now sometimes there are moments where it happens, but generally it doesn't really happen in a quick process. That's why there's checks and balances, right? So what I always encourage folks to do is, we know that voting is essential to human progress, and we need to do it each and every election cycle and talk about it both in and out of election season. But I also tell people that once you vote, then what do? Right? How are you, as somebody mentioned earlier, how are you engaging with your elected officials? Does everybody here know who their state representative or their state senator is? I'm sure most people do. But back where I'm at in Pittsburgh, You'll be surprised when people call me Congressman Abney. I'm not a U.S. congressperson, and don't put that pressure on me because I don't want that right now, right? I'm a state representative. That job is different, right? I can do different things than your U.S. congressperson, and so it becomes an education, but also it's a matter of you all are our bosses, right? We work for you, right? So imagine you're somebody's boss and you don't check in with the person who works for you once every 4 years. Or once every 2 years. You don't talk to them except for once every 2 years. Or they don't talk to you once every 2 years, every 4 years. Like, how is that dynamic going to work for the job? Right? You hire and you fire us. So you should continue to engage us. We are probably more accessible than a U.S. congressperson. Right? You should be engaging us on a regular basis because we are your employees. You don't have employees that you don't talk to, so you should be talking to us. And we welcome the opportunity because the reality of the fact is, we represent about 65,000 people in the House, in our districts and our communities. But a lot of times we're in Harrisburg, right? We're in Harrisburg passing laws, trying to pass laws. We don't know everything that's happening in the neighborhood on an everyday basis, right? I can only lay my head down in one of my 38 communities that I represent. I rely on you all, the folks who live there, to let me know what's happening in the community so I can go to Harrisburg, bring the resources back to try to address it. If nobody talks, nobody listens, and nothing changes, right? So I depend on you probably more than you realize. Like that you all think you depend on me, I depend on you, right? I depend on you to be successful at my job. If I don't know what's going on, when I go and visit my district where I don't live in the daytime, it looks completely different at nighttime, right? The activities that are happening in the daytime, when I get to put my eyes on it, I don't see all the time what's happening at nighttime, but there's somebody in that community that can let me know what's happening at nighttime, and I can use my influence to try to do something about that. And that's why all of this is so important. Senator?
I just want real quick, I have to sign off really quickly. We are about to move to audience Q&A, but I do want to thank the listening audience from WORD for this incredible event and tuning into Unusual Politics here at the P4 Hub. Shout out to DiverseForce and Suleiman Rahman. I also want to thank Senator Hughes, Representative Harris, Representative Abney, Representative Parker for contributing and being live with us on air. Thanks, everybody.
Questions? Any questions? Over here.
Good evening. My name is Tamika Tanksley, and I'm so glad to hear this gentleman say that, you know, they work for us, because I forgot. And my question is this: we're told that our vote is our voice, but oftentimes me and the people I talk to, we often feel like our voice falls on deaf ears. And so that's, if charity starts at home and we're supposed to do this local thing, and you're saying we should engage with our employer, I have been engaging with those who I allegedly employed for 15 years on an issue with my house. 15 years, from the top to the bottom. From my local to the Senate, I testified in front of the Senate. I testified in front of the state reps. And I have been, as a powerful black woman, dragged by the Good Old Boys Network in Delaware County because I chose to exercise my power and stand up for myself. But nobody who I've been voting for, nobody who I've been supporting stood behind me. So while we have the power, we can't depend on politicians for everything, but we do need you for something. And from me and the people I'm talking to, yes, we vote, we do it disgruntledly because we don't see that progress. And the problem is this: we often feel, and I'll just speak for me, that because we feel like when those who are in position are protected by the position. So you don't have the same pain points I have, but you have the platform and the position and the power to back up those who cast their vote to encourage me and others like me. So we ain't gotta keep going out here begging for the vote. I need to see what my vote is doing. Like I said, 15 years. I've testified been at the front of the line. So I'm just asking for all of those who are disgruntled, for all of those who are tired of choosing between the lesser of the two evils, for all of those who don't get their call returned, for all of those who don't get answers. $150,000 for damage on my house, and nobody, not one elected official who I voted for had the courage to stand with me. So the old boys, good old boys network in Delaware County thrashed me in their mouth like a rag doll and a lion. Because when I stood alone. And the only people mad about it was me, my parents, and my stucco inspector, who said his 30 years of experience, my home was the worst home he ever saw. 36-year-old woman buy her own first home, and 2 weeks later it exploded. And I'm end with this. Dr. Kenyatta Johnson, a professor in Princeton, wrote a book called Race for Profit. She spoke about the redlining and how black people couldn't get homes and got all set up. She spoke of a woman, a Philadelphia woman, Janet Johnson, who 50 years ago had my experience, moved into a home, it started to fall apart. She went to him and said, hey, this ain't right. They told her too sad so bad. She went to court and we're still trying to figure out what happened. But here I am 50 years later and I am Janet Johnson. So how much progress has it really made? Again, if charity starts at home, let's do this local thing right. And it shouldn't matter who I know, who my daddy is, or anything for me to get the services that I need. Because as you said, and I'm glad you said it, y'all work for us. And I feel like you quit.
Wait, hold on. Can we
Let them answer the question,
let
please.
the panel respond, please?
So I'll do it.
Is that representative of the LOSO, who's Delaware County?
It depends on what part of Delaware County, because it's several state reps in Delaware County. So, sister, I don't personally know you. I don't personally know your story. I don't personally know what happened, and I don't represent Delaware County. But here's what I will say: sometimes we miss the mark, and I want to be clear as an elected official. Well, I do pride myself on being able to produce for my constituents. I internalize when I don't make the mark. And there are many things that I wish I had the power to do that I legally don't have the power to do. And I do hate that sometimes it takes too long for the wheels of politics and government to move in favor of its people. But I still go to work every day because there are times when we actually do make the mark and get to do things right. And I don't know you, but I apologize for the system that failed you. It wasn't my fault, but I still apologize that the system did not stand up for you. And let me finish. The question was asked, who does stand up? I mean, I try to every day, but here's what I would suggest to you. This is a participatory government. If you don't like the elected officials you have, put your name on the ballot and run. And I say that as an incumbent. Let's not act like you can't run for office. Because Kenyatta Johnson just walked in the room. Kenyatta Johnson ran against a 20-something-year incumbent when he won for state representative. He ran against an incumbent and won. You know what I mean? Summer Lee, our sister Summer Lee out in Allegheny County. The whole system was against her. She ran and she won and became the first woman elected to Congress from the state of Pennsylvania. So, sometimes we doubt ourselves before we even start in the process. And listen, this is what government looks like. If you don't like the people that are in office that represent you, organize, raise money, mobilize, and run for office. And look, you may not hear incumbents say that, because we do enjoy our jobs, and you know, a lot of time, and this is the other thing, low turnout actually helps incumbents, just so you know, okay? When people don't vote, it actually helps incumbents. When people actually do go out and vote, it makes incumbents actually work. Now, incumbents ain't gonna tell you that, and you know, but I'm sitting with folks that I believe give a damn. We ain't on the radio anymore. So I'll say, I'm being real honest with you. When the votes are high, right, that is your opportunities, presidential elections. Those are your opportunities. So if you don't like the representation that you have, by all means, people should vote. The last thing, people should run for office. The last thing I will say, though, is that this is why the interconnectivity of government is important. One of the things that I battle with as an elected, trying to fix issues, is that some things aren't state issues. I can't tell you how many times people call my office about Social Security. I love you, but there's nothing I can do about Social Security except pick up the phone, call Dwight, call Fetterman, or call Casey. I can't do it. You know what I mean? So I have to call them because I don't vote on Social Security, right? You could call me and tell me that your trash didn't get picked up. I'm with you, but I gotta pick up the phone and call my council member and say that. Now, when we do benefit the most is when all of those folks actually work together. And what I can honestly say is that in the last 5 to 10 years, what I've seen is that in black communities, elected officials who have been getting elected have left the divisions of our forefathers behind and started to work together collectively. And because of that, we get to see the benefit. Now, again, all of your problems ain't gonna be solved overnight. You know, that's not the case. But I can't sit here and act like $1.1 billion in schools ain't a big deal. $231 million for Philadelphia is not a big deal. I can't act like when we passed the clean slate law in 2018 that began sealing criminal records ain't a big deal. 45 million criminal records sealed later when black men and black women and white women and Asian men and Asian women who've been affected by the criminal justice system can now go out and get jobs. I can't act like that's not a big deal. I can't act like this housing project that's going to give new and more affordable housing isn't a big deal. Is it everything? No. It ain't everything. But we have my thing is we have a responsibility to continue to show up and push our elected officials. It don't just end at the ballot box, and I see you, Napoleon. I'm done. It don't just end at, here's the thing, it don't just end at the ballot box. That's actually where it starts. You gotta be engaged all the time and challenging your elected officials to be better. That's just my thought.
So let me also take this opportunity to make this a bit of a commercial for the Legislative Black Caucus, right? So this is one of the reasons why we're doing this work, and we're thrilled to be hosted by DiverseForce Parker, but this is one of those examples where the Black Caucus gets to show up in Delaware County, even if you're fighting a good old boy network. And right now, we show up with the strength of 38 members strong, right? So when there are experiences that folks, black and brown folks, are living in when they don't feel like their representation is representing them, they can still make sure that they call us as a caucus. I will tell you that housing is brutal. Housing is one of those really difficult things for us to solve. One, a lot of the funding for housing is actually federal funding. A lot of the inspections for housing is happening at the local level, and then just understanding property rights makes things tricky. But because of that, housing is a real pillar for what we're going to be working on over the next couple of years. Ishmael Smith-Waddell is an amazing legislator out of Lancaster who knows housing inside and out. And we're working on some real deep and detailed policy legislation around housing, tenants' rights, things like that, that we're working on. We've been fighting real hard on health care and maternal health, and we've been making some real gains. Morgan Cephas, Latasha Mays out in Pittsburgh, Gina H. Curry in Delaware County. Like, there are some real pillars that we're moving from a legislative perspective. But then sometimes we just show up. right? So there's some folks that in Aliquippa, I mentioned on the radio, the Aliquippa High School football team is a small school. They graduate about 400 folks, and they keep trying to have them play the biggest of the biggest high schools because that small school full of black folk in the middle of Beaver County keeps whooping on the folks, whooping on them. And the PIAA can't stand it. And they keep trying to hit these folks, and then the Black Caucus gets to show up in Beaver County, right? The Black Caucus gets to show up right now. There's an urban farmer who's doing her thing right now in Chester County. It's in the paper right now about some folks who've been putting a swastika on her farm that she's got in Chester County. We get to show up in those places, right? So there's a portion of this that says when you're looking for someone with you, this is one of the things that we're doing as a caucus now. We're making sure that we are also here to stand with you. So if there is something that you're wrestling with, please do not hesitate to reach out. Not just to your local elected officials, but if you need to, if that's not working out so well, reach out to us as a caucus.
Awesome. I just want to remind folks too, these folks, please give them a round of applause for being here, first of all. And let's just be respectful. Understand we are in a democracy, right? You got holiday housewife to CEO who are running for office in these different districts, and that is not them necessarily. Whoever you hired in your community, they can't speak for that person necessarily, but they can speak about the system by which you can change. So saying things like run for office or empower someone to run for office, that's what we have to do in our communities. We can't blame another employee, if you will, for someone else's bad behavior. So let's just be respectful. And that respect, I love the sister's passion, and I encourage you all to have that same passion. Let's channel it to the right place as well.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dave Lipscomb. I'd like to say thank you for coming here today, because I do appreciate it. You guys have done here, since I've used, you've been here for 4 years and been following your career. And I have to say one thing with Chairman Harris, you know, you gave me a call. I made a comment about something, and you gave me a call and said, hey, Dave, what's your number? And we talked about it, and I really understood that. I don't know you, but I know you're from Pittsburgh area.
The West Side.
West Side, okay. Congratulations. And Ms. DiverseForce, I know her personally, but Representative, I'd like to say, I know many women are thanking you for that, the tampons.
Absolutely.
Because that's something that we really do need. But you know, one of the things that I like to say is that I feel the frustration of that sister over there. Someone who's been involved in the community. And I think sometimes things fall on deaf ears. They really do. People don't really hear sometimes. People are saying, I'm voting, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, but I don't see anybody representing me. My employee works for somebody else. So those are the things that people, we hear that frustration. But I want to talk about a couple of things. I'm glad that Council President Johnson is here, because I want to really talk about, when we talk about local, when I saw that, I said local public power. And I'm talking about, my biggest thing right now, if you follow me on Facebook, is that I'm talking about the local reassessment of taxes on our property. Yes. That's a big thing. And I've done some research and listened to people, and now we have another reassessment. And I know when we had the first one, if I'm correct, it was Council President Johnson that was in the newspaper talking about he got it, well, he had to go appeal it. Because so he felt that pain. Now we're feeling that pain. Now we have people on the council who are saying, well, feel our pain, feel our pain. And I know that council has the ability to change the laws. Now there he is, I see him. I'm getting ready to wrap it up. But that was one of the things, because right now we're talking about rent control in Philadelphia. Landlords. Landlords are hit with tax increases, insurance increases. And we're talking about that. We come together. We come together in that, and we can deal with that. But like Tip O'Neill said, I'm going to close on this one. All politics are local. And I think we have to really educate our people, because I used to work for a Representative Robot, unfortunately just passed away. And one thing, people will come in. We have to educate our people on what is a state senator? What is a state rep? What is a council person? What is a committee person? What is a ward leader? What is our congressman, and what is our senator? When we do that, then it will come to the right people and ask the right questions. And that's why we have some issues in our community. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity for having this tonight, because I think people need to hear it. So thank you very much for showing up. And Omar, the chairman Omar, I want to tell him congratulations, because I really enjoyed the job.
Thank you.
Anyone want to comment? It's not more than a comment there. Okay. I saw one sister over here that, okay. The last question.
Good evening. My name is Margaret Montgomery, and I just want to say that I agree about human education. There is a number of bills that is passed in the House which do us good, but they sit in the Senate. How can we educate our people about the importance of those who we elect for the Senate? Our people are not aware of that because when do we see them? So how can we educate our people about who we elect to represent us for the Senate? I know of a number of bills that have been passed in the House and they sit in the Senate forever and forever. And how can we need to be able to educate our people? Who are you electing for your senators? What their jobs is, what they do. Because the Senate is stopping a lot of things from moving that will be successful for our people. So let's try to find out a system, a way to educate our people about the importance of those that we elect in the Senate. Thank you.
I'll take that. Take that one. There are 22 Democratic senators, 28 Republican senators. This site, the reason why, so you could go to George's website or the House Democratic's website, show you the exact number of bills that have passed the House and sitting in the Senate. When they got the majority, they did exactly what they were supposed to do. They took a whole bunch of great issues. You heard about some of them tonight, all right? Passed them out of the House and sent them to the Senate because the Republicans are in the majority of the Senate, they won't move them. We can't even get the Crown Act moved because the state Senate Republican majority will not move it. Okay? So there's an attempt, and so in addition to legislation not being moved, we're sitting on a $14 billion surplus, which could be utilized to drive more programs to revitalize more communities, to take Derisha's $3 million, I'm giving you $3 million, Derisha, take Derisha's $3 million, all right, and increase it to $6 million, or to $9 million, all right? The state take the student teacher stipend program and take it from $20 million to $50 million, all right? We increased Cheney University's appropriation for the Keystone Honors Program by 50%, largest increase ever. But that should be 100% increase, but because we don't have the majority, we're stymied because the Republicans control the agenda. So the districts that have to be flipped, let me be real specific. All my brothers and sisters who are listening, who are in central Pennsylvania, in the Harrisburg community, okay? You have a chance to flip your seat and then therefore get more resources. To my brothers and sisters who are in Erie, Pennsylvania, you have a chance, all my cousins too, all have a chance to flip that seat, okay? Up there, great chance to flip that. In the Allegheny County, all right? You have a chance to flip that seat there in Allegheny County. It's on the ballot. It's poised to flip. People in those, I can't change those districts. I can raise the money to fund the candidates to help change those districts, but I can't vote in those districts. Those folks in those districts have the power to change it. Just a comparison. You've seen the accolades that Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, has gotten for the incredible things that they've done in Minnesota. Truly incredible. It's because largely they have what's called a trifecta. Democratic governor, Democratic-controlled Senate, Democratic-controlled House. It is with that trifecta that everybody sat down, got together, put the plan together, and just ran the table to allow some significant changes in Minnesota